hello out there.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
You look quite fresh today. What did you have for breakfast?
Poha.
अरे वाह, इंदौरी पोहा या आपका पुणे पोहा?
Indori poha done in Pune.
अरे वाह, so which means it did have the same.
Yes.
Okay,
That
great.
saves you.
Right. So I hope your second episode did not have any saving for the audience.
The chart, sorry, always has save in it.
Well, I'm guessing we'll have to do another episode for your PJs. So, I think we'll keep today's episode very specific. I have one and very interesting question based on your episode 1, and I think not just me, everyone out there is going to be very curious since we spoke so much about unrealistic cinema being fun, necessary, and influential. I want to know, who are your favorite heroes that influenced you probably in your growing up years, adolescence, and probably in your early 20s, 30s, and probably even today? So, could you throw some light on them?
Yes, top of the mind is of course my all-time favorite, Devanand. I grew up watching some of his films, but watched a few later as well. And I think he was made for the romantic hero's role. Everything about him, his style, his walk, his talk, his dialogue delivery, for example, were made for films and for entertainment mostly. He never played very negative or very sorrowful roles, for example, like Dilip Kumar did, which he was good at, but Devanand really flowered in those kinds of roles which I talked about. So he is number one. His songs were great also. In most of his movies, I enjoyed the songs. Maybe the second is a slightly different kind of a hero, Sanjeev Kumar. He played many old people's roles, old man's roles. For example, in Sholay and a couple of other films, Trishul, very well, very convincingly, which not too many Hindi film actors can do convincingly. They look out of place with either a stupid wig or whatever, but he never did that. He looked very convincing. He was very versatile. He played young roles as well with aplomb, with multiple heroines. He also played deaf and dumb guy's role in Koshish, which was one of the best roles of its kind, and for his films. I think number 3 would be Shami Kapoor. Again, very different from the previous one, but entertaining. I think his byline should be an entertainer. Yahoo was a famous song which he acted in, and that made him a household name even before the email called Yahoo came in. So he, I think, was an icon of entertainment, Bollywood, whatever it stands for. Great songs, great films, not very cerebral, I would say, but then, as I said, unrealism is the forte of Hindi films, and Shami Kapoor excelled at it.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you a little there, and probably I would really like to know, who were you inspired by in your growing up years, or are even today? Are there any actors?
Yeah, there are a couple. Rajesh Khanna was one I would vote for because I think I first saw a Hindi film which I remember, which was his film called Aradhana. It had great music which is remembered to this day. Mere Sapno Ki Rani, Roop Tera Mastana, and a few other songs, Kora Kagas, Tha Yeman Mera, are all iconic hits tuned by S.D. Burman and sung by Kishore Kumar, sometimes with a partner, Lata Mangeshkar. But he epitomized the generation of that 70s period. And he did very different kinds of roles in some of those early movies. One of which I would like to mention, which was Anand. It looks at cancer and somebody who's affected by cancer in a very different light, in a positive light. And the guy not only is happy himself, but he spread happiness and positivity all around when others are sort of beginning to mourn for him. I think that was a brilliant film directed by Rishikesh Mukherjee. So he went on to play quite a few good roles in other films, but these are iconic ones in my opinion. So Rajesh Khanna is one. Maybe there are a couple of other heroes along with him that I grew up watching. Devanand was one which I mentioned earlier. There were, of course, the angry young man, Amitabh Bachchan, and so on. But those came later, and that was probably the start of a new era in Hindi films. But Rajesh Khanna is what comes at the top of my mind.
Okay. Anyone else who gave smashing hits? What about Amitabh Bachchan, Dharmendra? Anyone? Yeah.
So between Amitabh and Dharmendra, I like both of them in different kinds of roles, except in one or two films where they acted together. For example, Chupke Chupke was one where both of them did brilliantly, and it was a comedy film based on language, the use of Hindi language, and the snobbery sometimes which goes with it in some quarters or with some people. But apart from that, I like Dharmendra better for the variety of roles that he did. For example, he did emotional roles, he did the Jati Yamla, Pagla Divana kind of funny Punjabi roles. And he also did something which I don't think anyone has attempted before in Hindi films. He wore a skirt in a film called Dharamveer, which he starred in along with Jitendra, where he plays some kind of a fantasy tribal person, and he carried off that skirt quite well, I thought.
Oh, that I must watch this now, at least for the skirt. Okay. Is there anybody else we are missing out on? How about one of I think Kishore Kumar? Wasn't he quite a versatile actor, singer? What about
Correct.
him?
I remember him, actually, he was my favorite singer. But he also produced some very serious films, very unlike his comic persona, which he did very well in films like Chalti Ka Naam Gaadi, for example, with Madhubala, which was a comic film with three brothers, all the three real life brothers starring in it. But one or two other films which he played good comic roles in, he's remembered for. For example, Bewakoof was one movie, and maybe Half Ticket, and so on. But he produced and directed some films in which very serious philosophical subjects were tackled. So yes, he is another favorite, both as a singer and as a hero.
Wow, Professor Nargunkar, I must say, you are marketing the actors very well at this point and the films. One last question, or probably two, before we end episode 2 is, if any of the films had to be remade today, do you think they should be remade? And if yes, then which ones and probably why?
Some of these films are probably a treasure, and it's, if not difficult, it's probably impossible to make some of them again. For example, look at Padosan, in which Kishore Kumar had a starring role, so did Mahmood. Mahmood, in fact, was another hero come character actor or a comedian who I liked a lot. Some of these films are really iconic, and I don't really think they can be remade or should be remade. There was a disaster called Something Ke Sholay, which was an attempted remake of Sholay, which didn't go anywhere. But some of them are okay-ish remakes. For example, I think Golmaal, subject of Golmaal was remade in an Ajay Devgan film, which was not too bad. So it depends really on the director and the scriptwriter, how they are able to bring it up to today's times, and the remake has to be convincing. The remake of Chashme Badur, the old one which was made by Sai Paranspe, is also not very bad, not too bad. It stars a new generation of actors in the lead, and is reasonably decent to watch. So yes and no.
Okay, fair enough. So before we sign off, any how would you entertain your audience with one dialogue or one line from any song or movie that we would like to hear?
I would say Mogambo Kushwa, Amrish Puri.
Well, I'm sure आपकी audience भी खुश होगी. चलिए, signing off. See you in episode number 3. Thank you.
Bye.